Well, we've all heard the statement, life was so much better before 1994. But was it really? And did the economy grow better during apartheid than it is now? Well, African think tank DaMina recently published an article that concluded that apartheid South Africa grew at a faster economic rate than post-apartheid South Africa. However, Statistician General Pali Lehohla says the facts do not support this. He joins me this evening to discuss this very argument. Thank you so much for your time today. What made you want to respond to the DaMina report?
Well, I have responsibility over the numbers in the country and also to deal with misinformation.
Okay.
The fundamental principles of official statistics entitled the Statistician General, particularly Principle 4, that the Statistician General has to dismiss statistics that misinform. And this DaMina statistics is absolutely terribly misinformed and terribly misinforming, unfortunately.
What was the most disturbing part of it for you? Because they're
looking
at 1970 to 1990, right? And they're comparing that, they're saying, to 1991 to 2010. But let's talk through the issues.
There are four issues that are misinforming. The first is a methodological one. The second is the factual one, that is the data itself. It doesn't support what they are saying. The third is just inability to analyze the politics. And I thought that DaMina would have done some better work there in dealing with the morality of politics, both of apartheid and the democratic society. Okay. They failed on all that. And then, of course, the fourth is the luminaries, and I don't know where they were when this this article is under their stewardship and their pen. And what was their research capability?
All right, so let's
so this is absolutely
let's go through it so people who are listening to us now can understand what is at issue. One of the things that they've said is that they believe that they stand by their statistics. They're saying that they are using UN Statistics Agency data, and it is in US dollars, and you said that in itself is a problem because you have to use purchasing power parity.
Well, let us take, for instance, the dollar-rand exchange. You can use that if entirely the South African economy is an export or an import economy in its entirety. But where exports and imports constitutes 10%, using the dollar distorts the situation. In 1980, the rand was worth $3. Today, 12. The dollar is 12 rands. Now, if you use this kind of things, it's not right. What we do in statistics and in any other subject, we use purchasing power parities when we deal with such comparisons. But it's when you deal with those comparisons across countries. So you cannot use purchasing power parity within one country because it will not work. But the only way you can deal with this is using the nominal, the rand as the basis of measurement. But using a dollar, you have a problem of exchange rate fluctuations, and you can't deal with it.
Yeah. What are the added dynamics of the size of an economy? So if you had to compare the size of the South African economy back in the 1970 era that they're talking about to where we are today, would that make a difference?
It does. You compare it. Of course, we have a rebasing process every 5 years. You also have to look at the structure of the economy, which changes. The sectors differ. But you measure that economy in the currency of the country, and then you look at it over time. Now, the other problem that they have, which is methodologically absolutely barren, is that they have used nominal rates. And nominal rates of the GDP do not take into account discounting the inflation. Yeah. Now, if you take 18% growth, that was there in the 80s, in the 80s, and compare it with the 11% that was there in the 2010 era, you have a 6 percentage point difference.
Yeah.
But in terms of real growth, I mean, there's no difference when you look at the 3.3% and the 3.5%, which is real growth. Now, if you take 6 percentage point and compare it with that difference and compare it with a 0.5% difference, over time, 6% will give you a very huge figure. But it has in it embedded inflation, which we have not discounted. So I don't understand what these people, where they studied.
So if we then had to compare, stripping all of that out, stripping out inflation, using the rand, not using nominal growth, but actually looking at real growth. Where have we done really well economically?
The longest sustained growth occurred between 2000 and 2010, 3.5% compared to 3.3%, 1980 to 90. So now tell me if you were to compare those two. Of course, if you compare the decade, 1970 to 1980, there was 3.3%, which was driven by the war economy. And that's where the morality problem comes in. Where this was driven by the war economy and all kinds of things compared to 1.4 that we saw in between 1990 and 2000.
Thanks for your time.
No, thank you very much.
That is Pali Lehohla, who is our Statistician General.